America votes in 19 days, and whether the Republican nominee will accept the results is an open question.
I will look at it at the time. I'm not looking at anything now. I'll look at it at the time.
What isn't in doubt is that Hillary Clinton enters this post-debates 2016 stretch in a commanding position, scored the winner of all 3 debates, holding a giant lead in the polls nationally, significantly more money in the bank, that was significantly, speak English, and a superior organization as the focus turns to early voting and to turnout.
So it's been a year, and now we have finished our last debate, and I'm feeling, both relieved and very grateful. No more debates, no more naps.
Making a joke there, no more naps. Donald Trump would mock her, saying she's not really prepping for the debate. She's off the trail. It's fascinating to call around this morning to get a different pulse on the Democratic side and the Republican side. There is a sense of gloom on the Republican side, not just about Donald Trump's chances, but about the potential impact down ballot. Let's just go around the table for sort of where we go from here. 19 days.
I don't know that the gloom started last night, though, with Republicans. They were pretty pessimistic even going into the debate that Donald Trump could do enough to make up all the ground that he's lost, and he didn't. He had a pretty good debate for 30 minutes, and then it sort of went off the rails again. There's no indication that he wants to expand the map right now and expand beyond his base based on his message.
It was the last best opportunity to stop the bleeding, or whatever metaphor you want to use, and he didn't do it. So the reality here is every day that passes by, more votes are cast. Right. So we talk about 19 days. It's not really true in a lot of places, a lot of swing states. It is happening now, as we like to say here at CNN. So this really is a good moment for the Clinton campaign to capture this, what's happening right now in the bottle and banks those votes. A lot of people are ready for this election to be over, so they are going to vote early. This is where a ground game comes into play. So Republicans are completely dismayed, particularly those Senate races. The Senate now is the central focus here, and it's in jeopardy.
But Jackie's dead right. They were down going into this debate. But the idea that the Republican nominee, a major party, take the party out of it, a major party nominee for president would not do what has been done forever, essentially respect the process. Yeah. And they draw the Al Gore comparison. If it's 537 votes, if there are questions on election day, that's different than saying weeks before the election it's rigged.
And let's also not forget that in 2000, when Democrats challenged the results, the electoral votes of Florida, the Congressional Black Caucus members were bringing up challenge after challenge. It was the presiding officer of the Senate who sat in judgment and knocked down those challenges, and that was Al Gore. I mean, he was essentially knocking down the last opportunities that he had to be president because they didn't follow the rules. So this has happened. And then look, I've been saying this for a while. Debates are not just 90-minute affairs between two candidates. They begin with the run-up, with the coverage that CNN and everybody else does. They end with the several days afterwards and what we're talking about. And what we're talking about today is one major party's candidate saying that he will not necessarily accept the results of a free and fair election.
And his staff trying to clean it up. His vice presidential nominee was on our air just before the debate saying, no, we'll accept the results of the election. Then Donald Trump says, maybe not.
And that's what I think was so interesting afterwards was Kellyanne Conway coming out telling Dana that they would accept the results of the election. Reince Priebus telling me that win or lose, Donald Trump is going to accept the results. Okay, well, who's going to tell Donald Trump that? If he wants to contest this on the evening of November 8th, who's going to be the one who says, look, you can keep fighting, but you're not going to get the votes? Is that going to be Kellyanne? Is it going to be Reince?
And the biggest lesson there for anybody out there watching is this: I think you have to believe what Donald Trump says, right? He's the candidate. Right. So in this time when you have 19 days and all these states to cover, can any surrogate for Donald Trump, can you believe that what they're saying is actually the candidate's opinion if it's about these big things that's important? I want to bring in today's mystery. Donald Trump just a little while ago tweeted this. Why didn't Hillary Clinton announce that she was inappropriately given the debate questions? She secretly used them. Crooked Hillary. Now, important context. I've reached out to the Trump campaign. Haven't heard back yet. I'll check in a minute when someone else is talking. Our producer on the ground with Donald Trump in Ohio reached out to the Trump campaign. They haven't. Is he talking about Chris Wallace of Fox News last night, the moderator, who did a very good job last night, we should say? Is he talking about that, or is he talking about Megyn Kelly had on Donna Brazile, the interim chair of the Democratic Party, on her program last night and questioned her about one of these WikiLeaks emails in which it is suggested, while she was here as a CNN contributor, she may have shared one of the town hall questions questions with the Clinton campaign back in the Democratic primaries. One town hall question, not all the debate questions, but that's the question, and the Trump campaign hasn't cleared it up. But
entirely different. And again, is he making that accusation to Fox News's Chris Wallace? He did a very good job at the debate last night under tough conditions. It was a very substantive and thorough debate. And Donald Trump stepped on it with his own statement there, which he had to have seen coming. This was not a surprise question. This has been in the atmosphere for so many days leading up to this. But the problem is, last night when I was watching this, it strikes me that the reality show that this campaign on all sides has seemed like really collided with reality. And when he doesn't get applause lines for the same things he says at his rallies, he falls flat and he's a bit rattled. So he was defensive in that moment, and it absolutely hurt him because he did win the first part of the debate.
And to your point, this is for the people at the rallies. This is for another day, another conspiracy theory that he can use as an applause line or a boo line during his rallies. And that he has fallen victim to this over and over again.
And Hillary Clinton was ready for this, obviously. Donald Trump had been saying in the days leading up, it's rigged already. There's fraud at polling places already during open voting. Hillary Clinton knew this was coming. Listen to this.
That's horrifying. You know, every time Donald thinks things are not going in his direction, he claims whatever it is rigged against him. The FBI conducted a year-long investigation into my emails. They concluded there was no case. He said the FBI was rigged. There was even a time when he didn't get an Emmy for his TV program 3 years in a row, and he started tweeting that the Emmys were rigged against him.
Should have gotten it.
This is a mindset. This is how Donald thinks. And it's funny, but it's also really troubling.
Okay.
Now, that is not the way our democracy works.
In terms of scouting your opponent and knowing how to get under his skin, you have to give her credit whether you like her politics or not.
I thought it was very clever of her to take one of her biggest weaknesses, the fact that the FBI investigated her email practices, and wrap them into a critique of Donald Trump and his and this sort of the fact that he didn't get an Emmy one year. And what that illustrates to me, once again, is that preparation matters. And one of these candidates came out prepared from start to finish, and as Clinton has in most of these debates, she didn't really have a major stumble last night. And Donald Trump came out, as Jackie said, pretty prepared for the first third, maybe even the first 40 minutes, and then everything sort of went off the rails. But there was no better illustration of that. With Chris Wallace's last question, he said, you guys did not agree to do a closing statement, but give a closing statement anyway. Hillary Clinton had a very easy 1-minute answer that was essentially, please vote for me, here's why. Donald Trump didn't. And if you're a candidate for president of the United States and you don't have a closing argument that you can just rattle off in 1 minute, then that's a shocking lack of preparation.
A year plus in, you should have your elevator pitch.
Yeah.
It's a quick elevator pitch you got to do. And the Trump campaign already again this morning is saying, why are you spending all your time or much of your time on this? I won't commit to accepting the results. Here goes the liberal media again. This is part of the conspiracy. We're part of the conspiracy to rig the election. I want to just make this point that that's not true. Conservatives, now some of these are never Trump conservatives to begin with, but they care about the party, they care about the movement, they care about the House, and they care about the Senate. Here's Eric Erickson on Resurgent.com, again, no Trump fan, but he said he could not help himself but go full dumpster fire after 30 minutes of sedation. Republicans need to do all they can in the next 3 weeks to preserve the House and the Senate because Donald Trump himself just handed Hillary Clinton the White House. And Bret Stephens, a Wall Street Journal columnist, trust me, I read it every day. No fan of Hillary Clinton, Bret Stephens is, but also has a lot of questions about Trump. He says Trump's answer on accepting the outcome of the vote is the most disgraceful statement by a presidential candidate in 160 years. This is not the quote-unquote MSM, liberal, lamestream, pick your choice. This is a pretty broad stream. What was that?
Well, so it'll be interesting to see what Trump does when he's in Ohio today. Will he try and clean this up himself? I'm guessing not. He generally doesn't do that here. But across the party, it is sending shockwaves. So you have to wonder, this has been an unconventional campaign, but a very conventional part of it, these debates, seem to have captured him, and he was unable to do the greatest television act of all, prepare for these debates. In the end, these debates did matter.
But I think one of the things that really stuck out to me was not necessarily the reaction of the political media, even the conservative media, but it was to look at how reporters who have lived and worked abroad reacted to that statement. Reporters who have lived and worked in countries that don't have peaceful transitions of powers, that have seen what it is like when you have these kind of contested turnovers, and they see how quickly that can turn ugly and that can turn dangerous. And to me, that's what really stuck out, is to see these people who have spent time in much more contentious areas doing reporting like this, to say, look, saying things like this has dangerous ramifications, and we can list all the countries where we've seen that.